There comes a moment when the fog lifts and the strategy becomes visible. That moment is today, because in a single day, we have received confirmation of two things: that Leo XIV appears to have given Germany the green light on same-sex blessings, and that Cardinal Marx went personally to the Pope to denounce the traditionalists as reactionary propaganda. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the German Synod has already won a decisive battle, and why the cardinal who leads it has already sat down at the Pope's table to demand that voices like yours be silenced. Facts first. On April 23, 2026, on the flight back from Africa, Pope Leo XIV answered a question about blessings for non-heterosexual couples in the Archdiocese of Monaco. The answer is vague. There are bigger and more important issues than sexual morality, justice, religious freedom, equality. He doesn't condemn the Munich blessings. He doesn't quote Cardinal Marx. He remains silent, strategically. 4 days later, on April 27th, theologian Thomas Söding spoke on Deutschlandfunk, Germany's main public radio station. Söding is one of the best-known theological figures of the German synodal path, a professor of the New Testament, a layman, and a protagonist of the reformist debate for years. His words, reiterated by Gloria.tv the same day, are unequivocal. What can and must happen with non-heterosexual couples in Germany has been agreed with Rome, and that will not change. He adds, the question is whether this is being discussed openly or not. Translation: Rome has already approved. The German Synod has received the green light it was waiting for. And it's not a marginal signal. Söding speaks after Leone's words about the African flight. He reads them, interprets them, and draws operational conclusions live on one of Germany's most listened-to radio stations. It is not a solitary voice misinterpreting. It is the synodal system formally registering through one of its main spokespersons that the new pope does not pose a threat to their project, and that the project can proceed. To understand why these words have such a high specific weight, just look at the context from which they come. Söding is the theological expression of the same system that produced the document Segen gibt der Liebe Kraft, Blessing gives strength to love, signed by Cardinal Marx on April 21, 2026. That document obliges all priests of the Archdiocese of Munich and Freising to offer blessings to non-heterosexual couples. No priest can refuse. As we documented in the video of April 22nd, it was the first act of this kind by a cardinal in Germany. Rome had remained silent at the time, and Rome's silence, we now know from Söding's voice, is considered consent. For Catholics in Germany, this means something concrete. A priest who refuses to bless an irregular couple tomorrow will no longer be able to appeal to Rome. Rome, according to the official theologian of the German Synod, has already given its assent. The conflict, from pastoral, becomes disciplinary, and this time it is against that priest faithful to doctrine. Cardinal Marx also added mandatory training for priests in June, called Queer Pastoral Care. This isn't an invitation, it's not a suggestion, it's a binding pastoral order. No priest in the Archdiocese of Munich who wishes to remain faithful to the magisterium has an institutional way out. This point changes everything else, because the story doesn't end here. There's a second piece of news, which emerged around April 24th, that the Catholic media have almost completely ignored. Cardinal Marx, the same Marx of Segen gibt der Liebe Kraft, gave an interview to Herder Korrespondenz, one of the leading German-language Catholic magazines, in a special issue dedicated to Leo. And in that interview, he confessed something extraordinary. Marx declared in German that there exists a Stimmungsmache, literally a climate fabrication, emanating from what he calls the Reaktionärslager, the reactionary camp. He added that this field is very well coordinated, especially in the United States, and that it concerns both politics and the church. He used the term Stimmungsmache, which in Italian translates precisely as propaganda, agitation. The denounced goal, to paint the synodal path as schismatic. Who is Marx, and why does this statement change everything? Marx is the Cardinal Archbishop of Munich and Freising, president of the German Bishops' Conference until a few weeks ago, and the main architect of the synodal path. When Marx talks about the synod, he is not describing something he sees from outside. He is guiding it from within. And the most disturbing part isn't the insult, it's what Marx added immediately afterward. He admitted having reported this situation repeatedly, his word, to both Pope Francis and Pope Leo. The progressive Cardinal of Monaco went to the Pope to denounce traditionalist Catholics as a coordinated threat. What we see is only the surface. Because if Marx warned Leon about online traditionalists, and Leon neither contradicted Marx nor condemned his Munich document, today's two pieces of news are not separate. They are two sides of the same strategy. We advance on the doctrine, we neutralize those who protest. And it is here that the story reveals its true nature. On the one hand, Leon utters ambiguous words about sexual sins, and Germany interprets them as a real-time operational mandate. On the other hand, the main architect of that interpretation goes to the Pope to point out the opposition as reactionary propaganda. And Leo listens. The history of the Church is familiar with this pattern. It was 1892. Leo XIV had opened a dialogue with the French Republic, the so-called policy of ralliement, a prudential, limited, tactical gesture. Liberal French Catholics and later Americanists in the United States interpreted this as a total openness to the values of secular modernity, going far beyond what Leo XIII had intended. The Pope had to intervene in 1899 with the letter Testem Benevolentiae to correct those distortions. There's, however, an important difference compared to 1899. Back then, liberal Catholics interpreted the papal words on paper months later. Today, Soding speaks live on the radio after a papal flight, citing a concordat with Rome, and the doctrinal damage is already circulating in millions of ears before the Pope can correct it. The rhythm of ecclesiastical history today is that of social media, not that of consistories. And here comes the uncomfortable question: what's left for us faithful to do in this scenario? Marx calls us reactionaries. Suding tells us everything has already been agreed upon with Rome, but Leo doesn't respond. The boat continues to take on water on both sides. What Marx calls coordinated propaganda is aptly faithful testimony. The fact that he felt the need to go to the Pope to denounce it is, paradoxically, the best confirmation that this testimony is working. Those who are not afraid do not denounce. What do you think? If you liked the video, comment Amen. God bless you.